So, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Daniel, very nice to see you. How are you?
Doing great. How about you?
Not too bad, not too bad. So, with me today is Daniel Peretz, who is the CEO of Combina Creative, a digital agency based in Israel. And today we're going to discuss ways to inspire action among your team and keep them engaged, productive, and happy. And as we were discussing, Daniel, before, we are living in VUCA times, very volatile, very uncertain. So when you're running a business, when you're running an organization, when you're running a team, your people, your team is your most important asset and your biggest
Hmm.
resource. Without a team, the business cannot function. So it is essential, I suppose, that your employees feel encouraged and inspired on a daily basis, even sometimes if they are working from home on an hourly basis. So, in order, I believe, to achieve great results, a successful leader should really constantly thinking about ways that he or she can motivate, inspire, develop his or her team, especially as we said during these volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous times. Um, and today I would, when I reached out to Daniel a couple of weeks ago to arrange this podcast, Daniel obviously coming from an IT background, I suppose, digital agency, lots of tech stuff. I was not expecting Daniel to tell me, yes, I'm interested to talk about this. I was expecting Daniel, I was expecting you to come with a topic that is more IT related or digital related.
Hmm.
But you proposed to me this topic, which is very much people focused, right?
Right.
So before I take your view on how to do what you see on the title, tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Sure. So, a little bit about what I do. I'm the CEO of Combina Creative, and Combina, we focus our energies on helping businesses, particularly in the e-commerce, direct-to-consumer space, collaborating with influencers and utilizing their content to deliver uh, ads that are not only going to drive your ROAS, but also cut down your content creation costs. And really, when it comes to scaling a business in the e commerce space, our focus is to cut down the amount of time and stress that is involved with running paid social and working with influencers, and really just making a very smooth process along the way. There's certainly partnerships that we have with other companies that specialize in e-commerce and D2C that help along the process and can drive further conversions, whether that's through email marketing, etc. And as an agency owner, and really, Evan, I really like this topic of talking about being a team leader. And being a team leader as an agency owner has given me a lot of opportunities to deal with conflicts, a lot of deadlines, a lot of launches. And so really when we're focused our energy in helping our clients, we sometimes forget, wait a second, we're actually a team here. Like, let's work together on this. So, I definitely appreciate the topic, Evan.
So I suppose in your role and in your industry, you have employees, right? And you also have kind of associates, partners, like
Mhm.
non-employed people, right? So how was it for you over the last couple of years? How did the lockdowns affected you? Because I know Israel, you are based in near Jerusalem. Israel is one of the countries to achieve mass vaccination. I think was the first to achieve
Right.
like 80%, right? Like a year ago, started from a year ago. And I remember it was a time around 6 to 9 months ago where Israel was totally kind of back to normal.
Right.
So going back a little bit to the first lockdown, in 2020, how this situation affected your business,
Yeah.
technically as well as on the managerial level with people.
Sure, it's a great question. And so, just a little bit of backstory. I moved to Israel. My family and I moved to Israel 4 or 5 months ago. Our business is based in Philadelphia. Our team is in the United States. So we still have a lot of interactions. And back in 2020, it was definitely an interesting turn. I did lose a few clients, but there were clients that stood with us. Then there's changes that had to be made, as with anything else. As a team, collectively, I had to make adjustments as far as delegation. We had to cut back a little bit, unfortunately, and by cutting back, we had to be able to delegate to the right people. So when you're talking to someone who has experience in, let's say, running Facebook ads, you don't want to delegate something to them that obviously doesn't fit their career goals, their path in life. So I had to have multiple conversations with my team leaders and people around me and say, look, like what should be our focus? Because our focus before 2020 was mostly local businesses. We had some e-commerce businesses, and so we were like, look, where can we take our energy and our focus and our drive and work with a industry that is thriving and things that we also enjoy. I myself have been an e-commerce founder. I've founded in multiple businesses along the way, but one of the things that I realized was, look, let me take this energy right now where people are at home, they're buying products, they're just making impulsive buys, but let me give them authentic content from influencers, from users, and take that content to another level for these e-commerce brands. So we decided to just have all these conversations, figure out what support do we need, who could we delegate certain tasks to, and understand this industry better, and just make that switch. So when it came to my other businesses and other ventures that I was in, I decided to shift focus and say, look, right now people are at home. They need, if they need school supplies, if they need pants, whatever they need right now in their life, let's make it authentic and real for people. And we decided to look into and further our service that we were offering before in influencer marketing, influencer amplification, and paid socials. So I think part of building an inspiring action is you just have to have support. You just have to talk to people, ask them what do they feel. And once you know what they feel and what they want in their goals in their life, you could say to yourself, look, maybe it's just not the right place for you. It's not a bad thing. It's just, I just don't think it's right for you. Maybe we should find another position for you. And I had to do that, but it's part of being a leader and understanding your team better.
Well, that's interesting because I do believe that leaders and managers, I think we should all understand that in today's new workplace, um, there is not a single recipe to encourage employees to perform better. So
Mm.
I think, right? Don't you agree that it is rather it's about how to maximize the ingredients in order to create hundreds of recipes that are customized and, as you said, authentic to each employee, right? Because
Right.
you have people that are married, you have people that are single, you have people that like to work from home, you have people that don't like to work from home, and especially if you are coming from a creative industry, I don't think that working from home suits a lot of people, because in a creative agency where you have marketing ideas, you have innovation, you have brainstorming, you can't really take these people and put them to work from their living room. I think they do like the buzz of the creative environment.
Mm. Yeah, and the way I look at it, to kind of answer as far as encouraging people, it's kind of like customer segments, right? You should have employee segments. There are people out there who, like me, for example, right around this time, actually, I like to take a nice walk, do a nice run, and just clear my mind, clear my head a little bit. Most people would, or there's some people who would say, no, I need to focus. I need to get this stuff done. So if I were to pitch to an employee that's like me, who just needs to take a breather, if I were to pitch him, or her, you have to do this action that goes against of how you feel. That's like pitching a product to a customer segment that totally doesn't fit what the customer wants. So I think as leaders, we have to encourage based off of employee segments, if you will, and be able to recognize, okay, this person's a little bit more of an introvert, maybe like pushing the whole, like, you got to show up to this, virtual live event that we're running or whatever it is. Maybe that's not the right approach. Maybe give them a task that is relevant to them and that they would say, wow, I'd actually buy into that product or actually buy into whatever you're giving me. So I think that encourages people and keeps them aligned, as opposed to trying to force one set of culture to a whole massive, group of people. Even if it's just 10 or 5 people, you want to be able to segment that for them.
So the takeaway I have from you is it's knowing your people by asking questions rather than trying to impose something on them. And I suppose as a leader, how many people are you managing directly, indirectly, your agency?
Yeah, directly 16 people, and indirectly we have partners, we have people that were obviously helping them
right?
along the way, right?
So let's say if you have around 20 people, I suppose you know everyone in your company. Therefore, I suppose at some stage, you really need to wear 20 different hats, right? When you're dealing with 20 different people.
Yeah, you do need to wear different hats, and part of that is just documentation. So if you document as much of the conversations that you have with your employees or whoever you're working with, even if it's with your partners, just to understand what they want and try to find a commonality between everyone else. So I think for me, I've sort of narrowed down, okay, like I said before, segmenting. I said, okay, these are the people that would fit best for this. My media buyers are this type of personality. My designers are this type of personality. So it's kind of, in essence, you're basically wearing less hats if you try to find some commonalities, which makes sense. If you have a team of people, they're going to have a certain personality. Someone who's a salesperson might be a go-getter. They might be a hustler, right? So you'd want to be able to wear less hats over time, because 20 people, it's manageable. But of course, I'm looking to scale my business, and I can't wear 20 hats all the time, but sometimes it feels that way.
So how do you segment this? How do you create segments? What do you do? How do you do assessments? Do you give them assessments to try to find out what personality are they, or you just get to know them?
Yeah, I do a little bit of both. I do a personality assessment, and I also try to get to know them. I also try to understand their vision. So I'm a firm believer in creating vision boards, and they don't have to go into that far into their vision, but at least saying, okay, what's your vision in your career? And some people, I have people on staff that are simply looking to take this stage in their life and maybe building their own business in the future. And I'm okay with that. I know that they're basically not going to be an employee down the road. And I want to address that. I want them to be part of the team for at least the present. So I think it's understanding their vision is part of segmenting that. I would also say where they are, geographically, so to speak. If they're working from home, or if they're working in an office, or if they're in a part of the U.S. where things are a little bit crazy in terms of COVID, whatever it is. So I think if you're building a bigger team and you got 100 employees from different parts of the country, I would segment based off of, okay, if I have like 10 team members that are in LA, then let me build, events or, have some advocacy around that LA area. It's something that has worked wonders for us, just to kind of make sure that everyone, is aware that, what I'm experiencing here in Israel is totally different than what you're experiencing in the US. So.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Okay, so yeah, so I suppose with what do you think? Don't you fear? I'm not sure how it's there in your end, but don't you feel that COVID a little bit? I don't know. Do you think that employees a little bit, employees across the board, I think different countries, do you feel they are tired of being told what to do? So learning, not just lecturing. Um, what do you think about this management style?
I think that people, I don't know if it's necessarily COVID or if it's just a generational thing. I think that
Right.
people don't want to be told what to do. So you don't have to tell them what to do. You just have to show them what's the job that has to be done. Now, job obviously can, if you're a media buyer, if you're a web designer, whatever your job is, but a job could just be a result. So if the result that we're looking for is to, three times, someone's ROAS, company's ROAS, and lead to that particular result, then let's just be creative and figure out how could we do that. So instead of saying you need to do this, look, this is just our goal. So if I wanted to run a marathon, the process would be I have to go on a run every day. I have to do this. I have to do that. Well, if I just had the vision and I just told myself and attracted to myself, I'm going to run a marathon. I'm going to run a marathon. I'm going to run a marathon. Eventually, I'm going to run a marathon, right? So it's one of my goals of mine, but we'll get there. So when you think of the end goal and the end result, and that's what you're trying to build, and what that could do for that business, and what it could do for the employees of that business, right? For that e-commerce brand, or for whoever you're working with, think of that result and what that could translate for them, and it becomes less of what I am doing and what I'm told what to do.
Let me unmute myself. Yeah. So, do you share your vision? Are you the kind of manager that always shares your vision? Obviously, you have discovered your own purpose. But do you kind of share your vision on a daily basis, or you are more like, this is my vision. If you want to follow, follow.
I don't want to impose whatever vision I have for myself personally, but certainly I would share what our vision is as a company.
Right.
And one of those points that we touched upon, which was authenticity, communication is important for us. So I do stress on company values. I wouldn't say I would stress it on a daily basis, but certainly on a monthly basis, to just readdress and say, hey, look, let's work on our communication. Let's work on not just performance, but what sort of actions we could take to better our performance. And so as a whole, yes, there is opportunity for me to talk about my own personal goals, but I wouldn't say I would go out of my way to say like my personal goals have to match with the company goals. That's two separate things. So that's what I try to enlighten the team and make sure they understand that we're all on the same page and following our company values.
Yeah, because you mentioned communication, and with my experience as an executive coach, I do, but the best leaders for me are the best the communicators, and
Mm.
they excel, I would say, at reading non-verbal signals,
Mm-hmm.
right? and then use mirroring to influence. The best leaders for me, I think, and you touched that upon, is they're able to adapt to different communication styles, to different personalities, to make sure they understood. Um, and that's where plays a lot of empathy, and they are open to new views and listening skills. And I can see from you that you're a good listener. You're a very calm leader. I can sense it. I can feel it. So what is your take? What is your opinion on listening as a leader?
Well, I believe that in any conversation, not just in sales, or if it's having a conversation with a client, I always believe that you should take the 60-40 rule, where you're listening 60% of the time and you're talking 40% of the time. That way you recognize and appreciate what the other person is saying, and you're not all of a sudden thinking of what's the next thing I have to say. Well, I know you had this in mind. And I know this was our deadline, or I know that we were supposed to do X, Y, and Z, but here I'm going to tell you what I'm thinking of right now. No, listen to the person of what they're saying first, and then ask yourself, do I appreciate that? Does that make sense to me? Can I acknowledge that? And I've taken that from some things that I've learned over the years, and obviously learning from some very inspiring, influential people. That the more you appreciate and acknowledge the other person, the more they're going to feel appreciative as well, right? You want to mirror that example. As far as nonverbal approach, I think if your team is working from home, I would do as much as you can to get on video. Don't say, oh, well, I don't feel like it, or I'm in pajamas, or I didn't.
Absolutely agree.
Yeah,
Absolutely, yeah.
I
Yeah.
didn't.
Why
I
why
didn't.
is why is this important? Because you'll be surprised. A lot of leaders don't understand it.
Yeah.
Why is this important? Why is video important? Please.
Well, video is important, first of all, because it brings a personality to the whoever you're talking to, right? And obviously, in marketing, video is very important. So there's got to be something good about it. If you're looking at someone's facial expressions, if you're looking at their eyes, are they looking at you? Do they even care? If I was right now just scrolling through the internet, and you're like, Daniel, come on, man, like focus here, right?
Yeah, 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 yeah.
So it's the same idea, and I think as leaders and other people who are listening to this, you've got to just turn on the video and talk to people, and really look at the camera. Don't be afraid. Don't try to focus on something else, because we can't focus on two things at once. I've tried it, and it's very tough. So
Especially if you're a man. Yeah, I suppose they say. I don't
yeah.
know. Let's say, right? Yeah.
Yeah. But I would say, if you're someone who struggles at listening, um, think about what the person is saying. And I've tried this exercise, it actually works really well, and repeat it in your head. So if you said to me, let's say you said, we're going to talk about how to inspire action among your team. So I'm going to think, okay, how to inspire action among your team. Now before I even had a chance to respond, or I have a chance to have a rebuttal, or whatever it is that I'm thinking of, and trying to tell the person, you got to do this, you got to do that. I'm thinking about what they're saying, and then I'm going to respond back. It's also okay to pause, right? And just say, okay, I'm listening, go on, right?
I think this is something that journalists do when they talk, when they take interviews. When the other person is talking, and this is something I learned from observing. They keep nodding their head, so it
Mm-hmm.
automatically passes a message to the other person to continue talking.
Mm-hmm.
And while the other person is talking, I'm suppose they're trying to cut things to think what question they're going to ask next, right? So because I think some managers, they are forcing their staff to put the camera on because they don't trust their staff,
Mm.
because they are micromanagers. And please, if you're watching this, and if you want your staff to put the camera on because you don't trust them, I think you should fire them. You know, it sounds bad, you know, because
Right.
if you're a manager that doesn't trust your staff,
Mm-hmm.
it's gonna eat your soul and your brain, and you can't really sleep. It's not a healthy situation to be in. And if you are the employee and you feel that your manager is not trusting you, it's the worst feeling that you can have, right? About your company and about that person.
Mm.
So please put your camera on, ask your staff to put your camera on, but not because you don't trust, but because you don't trust them, right? But to build that genuine relationship.
Mm.
And if you really don't trust your staff, or if your staff don't trust you, do you really think that this relationship will go far? I don't think so, really. It's
Yeah, it's interesting because if they're doing their job, right? In marketing, we talk a lot about jobs to be done and researching, etc. If they're doing their job and they're fulfilling their job, what don't you trust? Is it the way they look? I mean, let's be real. What are you not trusting about them? Is it the way they act? Is it attitude? I'm actually curious what you've experienced, Evan, because some
is
people that
is
yeah.
is the culture that was developed within the organization, uh, of rather than focusing on tasks and
Mhm.
task execution, we are focusing on so many other things. And what time you come in, what time you go, how long is your lunch.
Mhm.
Okay, we all have to have a time, and people, you want to, 9 to 6 and stuff. But I think the corporate world, a lot of times, I don't know, we kind of COVID, and with people had to work from home, a lot of things, they were kind of shaken, like, okay, do you really want to have a culture of your company that really focuses on execution of tasks, or on micromanagement?
Mm.
Like,
Yeah,
like,
and I'll give you an example. We have a client, and we're spending tens of thousands, per day on running ads, and my media buyer is focused a lot on the task that needs to be done. He's very efficient. He's getting what he needs to do. And if I looked at what he was doing and said, okay, you're actually doing 110% when it comes to performance, you're doing an amazing job. And I just said, but actually you were working a few hours less than I wanted you to. So I guess that's where I'm kind of curious. Is like, well, what does it matter? I've actually shifted approach and said, look, if you want to take Fridays off, take Fridays off. Just get your job done. As they say, get your shit done. Excuse me.
and if you are a good manager, you can use that example to lift competition within your team, because the others can say, he's doing a very good job. So he's
Yeah,
taking time off, not because he's a friend with Daniel, but because, especially if you are managing sales teams,
right,
I don't care how many calls you do. I don't care how many time you spend on the phone. What I care is results.
right.
Find your way to bring clients. Maybe if you are my sales manager, maybe video call works for you. Maybe seminars work for you. Maybe one-on-one meetings works for you. Maybe, I don't know. Find your style. Let's
Right, and
so
whatever that action is that inspires them and motivates them to say, "Hey, look, actually, Daniel, I got a wife and kids. I have a
yes.
husband at home that we just got married, and I want to be able to see them. So, can I leave at 4? By all means, let's figure this out. Let's be efficient, and I'll provide you that support,
So
as
where
opposed
do you
to
draw the line, though? Because you don't want the other person to be pulling your leg. You don't want them to take the piss, right? So when do you pull the line?
I would say that when you pull the line is when it affects the relationship as a whole, as you mentioned. So if they are clearly taking advantage of myself, or other people in the process, then we need to really evaluate that. And I think also we would need to evaluate and say, look, family is first all the time. I always say this. Business is second. If you are allowing that separation and you're compartmentalizing, great. If it's getting too mixed in, which I hear a lot of, how to merge the two together, etc. in my humble opinion, again, I'm not in HR, but I would say in my humble opinion, it's good to compartmentalize. And I think if things get a little bit difficult, if someone's going through a difficult point in their life, we would have to evaluate that, and not as like, hey, we got to fire you, but this is something we need to address. So I would say it's really, if it's ruining the relationships and communication, like I said, that's our company value, then that's where we would have to say, okay, we need to stop here.
So what you do, you really need to sit down and see what is really going on in their family in that specific example, because it could be something serious that is going on. Maybe, I don't know, touch wood, they're going through a divorce, or it could be the fact that they just take advantage of your kindness, right? So you really need to know. So what would the first step that you would do if you notice a pattern? You will just say, hey, listen, Evan, let's have a chat, right? To find out more.
Right. I would just say, how could I help you?
Right.
That would be the first question I would ask. If they say, look, I don't need any help, I'm actually really good. I'm totally fine. I have my daughter stepping in, of course. But yeah, that's what I would focus on.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So no, you said you're not HR, but I know a lot of useless HRs. Useless. I don't you are not an HR, but I know a lot of HRs, official HR, they are doing zero. All they do is recruit, and yeah, it's I think the role of HRs in a lot of companies need to be reevaluated as well, because
Right.
sometimes HRs is HR your friend. In a lot of companies, HRs are not friends of employees, but that's a different topic. I don't want to go into it. So last question for another 5-6 minutes, or actually two questions. If you're running your company from US and Israel,
Yeah.
so if you find a good employee, let's say in Cyprus, a good media buyer, example saying, will you hire them?
I'd say that if they're a good employee, and to me, it doesn't truly matter of where they are. I think it matters, obviously, skill sets. Again, communication. It doesn't make sense with us. With clients and other
Yeah.
areas, but in terms of employees that are in Cyprus, or potential employees that are in Cyprus, I would say, yeah, I would say if it's a good fit,
Right.
certainly there'll be some cultural barriers that we would have to address and talk about. But I think that's where this COVID situation has really given everyone an opportunity to say, look, there's talent everywhere. You just have to be able to find that and take some time. And I would also really study the interview process. It could be that people in Cyprus have a different way of interviewing. Maybe it's more like a coffee date. Maybe it's more professional. You got to wear a suit and tie. Who knows exactly what is being involved?
Yeah.
But I think that making sure that you're on the same page as far as interview and expectations and salaries, etc. That's probably the first step I would do before stepping into that.
Right. The reason I ask, because a lot of companies, they do say remote work, but you have to be in our country, and you have to come to the office once per week. So is that really remote? I don't know. Remote work. You can work from home 4 days a week. It's remote work, but you need to be in our city. So again, I just wanted to see your view on this. Because again, in a lot of cases, COVID and the restrictions, we went from global to local. Now, local is your market. If you're running, for example, a hotel or an F&B business or a tourism industry, now due to travel restrictions, local is your market, is not global anymore, right? But in terms of IT, creative teams, and so on, sales, communication, live chat support, global is your village. You can recruit IT people from Ukraine, from India, and live chat in the Philippines.
Right. Yeah,
Right.
and it's you can expand from there. I think part of that is also addressing talking to people that are in the field. So if someone is in the Philippines or in Latin America countries, I would try to talk to some other leaders in that field and see if they're a good person to bounce off ideas. I've evaluated that in particular Latin America, and I think that's part of addressing and evaluating, if it makes sense, and if the people that you're talking to have some insight and can guide you through that process for sure.
Right. 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 So last but not least, if if a company is looking for your services, where can they find you?
Yeah, for sure. So if they're looking for our services, they can go to combinacreative.com. That's COMBINA creative.com. They could also reach out to me on LinkedIn. My LinkedIn address is linkedin.com/IN/Daniel Peretz. And if they want to jump on, any guest appearances or just want to talk to me, I'm more than happy to help them out, guide them in the right direction, or point them to any potential referrals.
Combinacreative.com, right?
Yep.
All right. So let me just put that uh, nice purple and blue website in the comments, right? Which matches your LinkedIn profile background picture.
Yep.
Combinacreative.com. That's it. I put it there. Yeah, interesting. And at the beginning, you talked about influencer marketing. And influencer marketing, I think I use it in one of my other businesses. I have actually stopped doing Facebook ads and all that, and I only do social stuff with influencers. So I don't really tell how good my company is. I let them recommend, suggest about the company. And I guess this is something that you can also probably help us. So maybe we have to talk offline about it. What
Yeah.
would you say?
Sure.
What would you say, obviously, from your expertise now, because you're a practitioner? What would you say right now is the most effective way of marketing in social media? I'm talking about Facebook ads, LinkedIn ads. Is it influencer marketing? Is it a combination of both? What is it really?
Well, I would say that now there's some issues, with dealing with iOS, which particularly what's happened recently and some of those changes. So I would say to influencer marketing, it's also depending on your product. You could also do user generated content. So if let's say if you're a brand that is a LinkedIn analytics tool, have one of your clients do a fun video explaining that and use that for a YouTube ad, right? Repurpose that content and amplify it to another level. So it's not just in e-commerce. Even service-based businesses can leverage partnership marketing, influencer marketing. But I would say right now, the top thing that people are looking into are transitioning out of Facebook ads and maybe jumping into TikTok ads. There's
Yes, TikTok. Yes.
definitely the CAC there is lower, and I would just evaluate new channels. But if you're going to look at your marketing strategy, look at it as like an investment opportunity. You wouldn't invest all of your money into Dogecoin. I mean, if you really want to, but I'm not a financial advisor. But I could tell you that, look, take some of your money, invest maybe a little bit in crypto, invest into the stock market, right? So it's the same idea here. You'd want to evaluate your market, see where your audience is at, and try to tap into new channels along the way.
That was my son trying to enter. So Daniel, thank you very much. That's right. I think
Yeah.
he went with his mom into the other room, but I think they got too bored, so they just came out now. Because I told them it's going to be half an hour. I always tell them half an hour, and then it's to an hour. Yeah, possibly our next video, maybe in a couple of weeks' time, we can talk a little bit maybe about marketing and more specifically how you can help companies. So Daniel, CEO of Combina Creative, thank you very much. Thank you for your time today. Thank you for your valuable input.
Thank you, Evan. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Take care. Bye for now. See you again. Bye-bye.